another episode of Curing Racism. I am your host, Paz Simpson. Some people call me the Happiness Engineer, along with my wonderful co host, Mr. Paul Hoyt. Together, we examine your commonly accepted beliefs that have caused your behavioral bias reflexes, and we are a great combination, I think. We're like milk and
Salt,
cookies, right?
salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper to come together to add a little spice in your life and a little flavor to what this world should need. So, Paul, thank you for another episode of joining us here. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but everything happens the way I think it should happen.
There you go. Well, it's always great to be here with you, Paz. I love these conversations that we do on Wednesday, the book that we've written, and the cause that we are championing for other people to do everything that they can, anything that they can, to help people recognize that racism is really a superficial bias. And as we like to say, when we learn to overcome the superficial differences that divide us, we will discover the common values that unite us. I did that just the other day, not with a person with a darker skin, but a gentleman who was, let's say, he was of a much different political persuasion than myself. But what we discovered was we both loved our grandkids. We discovered that, he has grandkids that are the light of his life, and I've got a granddaughter who is the light of my life. And, we discovered that common bond and the core values that represents, and have a closer relationship. We're able to, air our differences and share our disagreements, but we do it in a respectful way and in a kind way and in kind of a brotherly kind of way. And I think that's all it really takes. All it takes is one conversation, one connection to establish that heart connection, to find those core values that unite us and that can take away all kinds of tension and stress when it comes to racial boundaries, political boundaries, religious boundaries, any of those things which are superficial compared to the common values that unite us.
I agree with you 1,000%. You know, it is easy to find reasons to divide us. And through division is how they actually get to uh, hoard power, right? That influence stays in certain spaces and places based on division and ignorance, right? Because when we are united around love, around common knowledge, around things that actually make sense, you find that we are more kind and accepting. But when we are allowing ourselves to be divided on superficial level, we'll find that we are not only more defensive, but a lot more aggressive.
Yeah, yeah, and it's there are various. Some leaders want us to be in touch with our kindness and our compassion, and our integrity and our respect and our honor and our forgiveness and our understanding and acceptance and all of those virtues and values that I hold most dear. And other leaders want us to fight each other. They leverage this, this fear that I think we all have, this little inner child fear left over from childhood when we were helpless and defensive and defenseless in many ways. They try to leverage that into our victim energy to blame and shame other people and hold them responsible for all of our problems. They want us to band together in groups, which is our tribal instinct, but they wanted to elevate that to tribal conflict and blame those other bastards, wherever they happen to be, whether it be different people who look different or people who think different or people who worship different temples. Those are the ones that are really your problem. And if you'll just give me more power, I will keep you safe. And it's a lie, it's a myth. That when we learn to see through those superficial differences that divide us, when we learn to connect at a heart level, we will discover those common values, like the love for a grandchild, that unite us.
What we find is that those who perpetuate hate, no matter what reason they may give you, sooner or later will hate you too.
Yeah.
You
Uh,
know, it's when you don't fit their hate mongering anymore, right? It is easy to turn on you too. What I always tell people is to ask yourself, is this being done out of love or is it being done out of hate? We've seen uh, in my city recently um, an hatred for a political party.
hmm,
You know, understandable why the anger was so heightened. But when you ask the question, are you acting out of love or are you acting out of hate? The only thing they can do is be upset when you ask. Because if you truly love, right, you can't you can't express that much hate, you know, and
right.
love is more powerful than hate. We can we can love more, right? We can forgive more, you know. And it was funny because I stood for something. It meant they thought it meant I was against something else. No, I stand for what's right. That doesn't mean I have to be against someone who's also right. Just means I stand for what's right, you know. And it's easy for people to lose, especially in this political climate, because we will dig our heels in on one thing, which leads us to hatred, instead of opening up our arms, our eyes, and our hearts so we can see more things to open up to love. See, love is a bond that can't be broken when it's truly something given freely.
Amen. Amen. And I really do believe that excuse me, I really do believe that the pendulum is swinging back. That good people, common people like you and I, and so many other people out there are finding the courage to speak up. We're finding that there are thousands of us, millions of us, who are dissatisfied with the way things are, and we're ready to join together and let our voices be heard. We come together at rallies, we come together at protests, we come together at temples and synagogues and churches, and we speak up. We realize that we can be a part of the solution, that we may not be able to fix everything, but we can do something. We can be a voice for goodness. We can be a voice for love. We can be a voice for integrity and respect and optimism and kindness and forgiveness and understanding and acceptance and all of those core values. And so that's that. I want to challenge people listening to this podcast, um, to be one of those voices, to speak up as loudly as you can. No, you can't, you're not all powerful. You can't fix everything, but you can raise your voice. And when you raise your voice, when you say this isn't right, if you say this is what I believe, if when you say let's get along, let's try to see through the differences and find those common values, you are doing your part. You are doing what you can. So, no, you can't do everything, but you can do something. You can't fix everybody, but maybe your voice will inspire someone else there to open up their heart just a little bit. So, that's our encouragement and our challenge for everyone today, is to raise your voice. Maybe it's a small voice, maybe it's a large voice, but raise your voice. Raise your voice. Be part of the movement of goodness, be part of the movement that unites us all, as Paz and I try to do every week with our Curing Racism podcast and our Curing Racism book and workshops that we can bring to your businesses, to your communities, if you see the opportunity for that to happen. So be bold, be brave, be courageous, be daring, be 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 outrageous, be feisty, be optimistic, stand up, speak up. Let us hear you.
Don't be afraid to be alone, right? Because sometimes, right, when you are being bold, it may put you in a space or a place where you are alone for a moment, right? But that doesn't mean you'll be alone forever, right? Sometimes you have to let go of the things you don't want in order to bring in and hold on to the things you do want. So don't be afraid that if speaking up puts you on an island for a moment, you'll see that you willing to speak up, your courage, that brings a not only a group of people to you, but it also will allow you to find your tribe, right? We are so busy trying to fit into other tribes that we have yet to build our tribe that's based on truth, justice, love, integrity. Find your tribe that wants to not only support your dream, right, but wants to really live in harmony with where you're going. Right? There's more of us around. Like I had to explain to someone, and me and Paul laughed about this the other day. It said, "Do you pick friends based on color?" And I said, "No." And they said, "What?" I said, "I trust Paul more than I trust any of you in here." You know, and it has nothing to do with color. It has everything to do with heart and integrity. You know, we can we can easily be tricked out of a good space with a great person looking at their skin color.
Yeah, yeah. We lost one great person, just yesterday or today, Jesse Jackson yesterday, who kind of became the loud voice after Martin Luther King was assassinated in 1968, ran for president a couple times, and I had a great deal of respect for him. He's an eloquent speaker, but he spoke about compassion. He spoke about togetherness. He spoke about, overcoming racial boundaries. And it was sad to see him go. And with great respect for him, I remember him fondly, remember him well, and we look forward to that next great voice. The last one we had, I believe, was Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, who I still dearly love. Coming up is Jasmine Crockett, I think, are really great voices that, if you'll just close your eyes and listen to what they have to say, um, I think you'll have the same amount of respect for them that I do.
I agree with you 1,000%. You know, there are amazing leaders in so many different shapes, sizes, colors, creeds, but we may miss them if we only look at them through superficial eyes. The
Yeah.
greatest thing that we can do, right, is this. They say eyes, right, are the doorway to the soul, right? Look into the eyes of that person and enjoy their beauty.
Amen, brother. Always great to talk with you on these Wednesdays, Pads. Always great to share a little insight, a little encouragement and support for those other people out there. Yeah, and again, if any of you think that there might be an advantage to us speaking to your company, to your organization, and sharing what we have learned about racism, about tribal instincts, tribal conflicts, the role that leaders play, and most importantly, the solution to racist tendencies. We'd be happy to have that conversation. Just reach out to us at curingracism.com.
Yes, the most important thing that I say that anyone can do, not just watch these videos, and please watch the videos, share the replays, all of the great things, because we've had some amazing conversations that speak truth to power, but really invest in yourselves. Bring us out. Allow us to work through a workshop with your people. Allow us to allow you to connect one heart, one conversation at a time. Allow us to give you just a little greater insight so that you, your company, your business, your family can live in a world that's curing racism.
Amen. Talk again soon, Paz.
Thank you guys, and we'll see you next Wednesday.